Naruto screamed as the kunai pierced his leg. He couldn't understand why the villagers hated him, why they always hurt him on his birthday. He was only a 5-year-old child. He stumbled as he found the alley he'd ran down ended in a brick wall. He looked back. All he could pray for now was someone to save him as the crowd of villagers and ninja walked closer. "We're going to finish it this time, demon brat," the leader said, his silver hair shining in the moonlight. "Yeah," a villager said, "this is for our families." Naruto screamed again as a bottle shattered on his head, then all he knew was pain. Blades pierced his flesh, blunt objects shattered his bones, and blood pooled around him. All the time he cried and feebly tried to fight back. Even when his wild swings connected, they were fruitless. He didn't have the strength to harm them, and he didn't know anything about chakra like the ninja did. Still, every time he was knocked down, he forced himself back to his feet. He was forcing himself to continue, forcing himself to prove he wouldn't give up no matter what. For the villagers, they were amazed that he managed to survive this. Sure, it was proof he was the demon they thought he was. If only they'd known. Deep within his cell, sealed inside Naruto's gut by the Shinigami, Kyuubi watched, and he growled in anger and hate. These filthy scum were harming an innocent child, and worse, they were doing it because of him. Kyuubi was an evil bastard. He'd never made any qualms about that, but even demons treated their young better than this. It was sacrilege to do this to a child. He kept forcing chakra into the boy's coils to heal him, but he knew it wasn't enough. If someone didn't come soon, his container, and by extension Kyuubi himself, would die. The demon lord could not let that happen, so he searched for a way to heal the boy completely as well as give him a means to fight back. Then, as one of the villagers screamed for the child's blood, the idea struck him. A cruel smirk crossed his lips as he remembered this village's love of bloodlines and the laws they had regarding them. It would wear him out, putting him to sleep for a few years, but the boy could still draw on his chakra to heal. And if he did it right, the boy might have a healing factor of his own. Kyuubi flared his chakra. Naruto screamed as the red chakra seemed to flow into his very blood in his body, and that on the floor of the alley. His wide eyes glowed bright red, his canines lengthening into fangs. He could feel his body changing, and he didn't know why. He looked down and saw the blood on the ground shifting and swaying as his body healed rapidly, bones mending and cuts closing as the blades were forced from his body. Inwardly, Kyuubi smirked. It was perfect. They wanted the boy's blood, they would get it. Exerting the last few moments of his control from what he'd done, Kyuubi used Naruto's new Kekkie Genkai to reap revenge for the boy. Dozens of lances of crystallized blood shot forward, stabbing into the mob. The ninja and villagers all wore identical looks of shock as they died from impalement. As both Naruto and the Kyuubi passed out from exhaustion, they saw Anbu rushing toward them. About time, Kyuubi thought, knowing the cat-masked woman would not let the boy come to harm, nor would the weasel and dog. The rest he didn't recognize but was happy his container was safe. Someday he'd have to talk with the boy. Even at 5, he'd earned the great fox's respect, if just for pure stubbornness. With that last thought, the demon let sleep claim him as Naruto fell unconscious. Naru, Kakashi stared in awe at what was before him. Naruto had actually saved himself, but the Anbu captain was at a loss for how. The mob had been speared by a red crystal-like substance that Kakashi was almost certain was blood. He quickly drew a kunai and chipped a shard of the spike away to take to the hospital with Naruto, leaving the rest for now. Weasel, guard this alleyway, put up a genjutsu, and don't let anyone but our squad or the Hokage come down it. Cat, go inform the Hokage, bring him here first, then to the hospital. I'm taking Naruto to the hospital to have this. He held up the shard, tested, and have them see to Naruto. With that, he picked up the blonde. Go! Naru, the Hokage was worried as he rushed into the hospital. After what his Anbu had shown him in that alley, he didn't know what to think. They said that Naruto had been enveloped in red chakra. It died away, and those red crystal spears protected him as he passed out. He'd studied the scene, and while there were pieces of the crystal that could be sheared off, they were as hard as steel. What worried him was that they were as red as blood, and based on the Anbu's report, he thought they just might be. As he entered, he saw the only doctor he knew would work on Naruto without some incentive from himself. Quickly rushing toward the woman, he saw the shocked, relieved, and somewhat fearful look on her face. Report, the Hokage said as he neared her, not bothering with preamble. Naruto's only current ailment is chakra exhaustion, which he should not be capable of this young since he shouldn't be able to mold or use chakra. However, it's very simple to explain how it happened, and Sarutobi, I apologize for the paperwork this will cause. The doctor said to him, just give it to me straight, Eboshi. The aged Hokage closed his eyes, waiting for it. Naruto has unlocked a bloodline, the likes of which I've never seen or heard of, at least not like this. It reminds me slightly of the Kaguya's Shiketsumiyaku. Like they can manipulate their bones, Naruto can manipulate his blood. He can secrete it from his pores if need be, and seems to be regenerating lost blood at an accelerated rate. He has fangs now as well, and his eyes have become brilliantly red. I'm not sure of the full extent or limit to these abilities. I do know his blood itself has changed. It's not a blood type I recognize. It can receive blood of any type, changing it to meet his needs. I believe the fangs are actually for this purpose, because he has multiple veins and arteries flowing into and around his stomach. His antibodies have changed, they've become aggressive. Blood-borne toxins or disease stand little chance of harming him now. I believe it has given him a very intense regenerative ability, though the limits of it and how much it'll rely on blood. I don't know. Eboshi looked up at him. And one last thing, that crystal shard they brought in with him. It's Naruto's blood all right, and it is completely infused with chakra. Purified chakra so dense I've never seen the likes of it before. That one crystal has enough chakra in it to create at least 10 shadow clones. Eboshi, there are over a dozen spikes of that crystal, each over several feet long and nearly 6 inches thick at the base. Sarutobi said, don't get excited, they can't be harnessed. At least not that I know how to. Perhaps in conjunction with seals, but I'm no seal master. They could, however, absorb chakra, purifying it. I believe that it was the fox's chakra that has been purified by the blood. He could have the power to actually weaken and defeat Biju. Eboshi grinned. Remarkable. He'll need to be trained in the ways of ninja, and, Sarutobi smirked, and I think I've found a way to protect him from the council. Eboshi smirked, I've prepared a file for you. Hokage-sama. Nico, the cat-masked Anbu was suddenly kneeling behind the Hokage. Call an immediate council meeting. Naru Sarutobi sat in his chair at the head of the council chamber. The Shinobi Council was here already, and they were awaiting the civilians and elder council. While he didn't need them for the actualities of his plan, their presence would cement that there was nothing they could do about it. They also had to be here so he could see the looks on their faces when it occurred. He'd been trying to find a way to accomplish this for years, and now it was going to happen. As they all filtered in, Sarutobi nodded to the Shinobi Council and clan heads before turning to the room at large, honorable council. I apologize for the hour of this summons. It was an important matter, and in order to strengthen Konoha, I felt it could not wait. What is it now, Sarutobi? Danzo asked, his old calculating eye watching the man for tricks. A medic has discovered a new and powerful bloodline, comparable to the Kaguya's Shiketsumiyaku. It is never before seen, so it has no name, but its abilities are quite impressive from what Eboshi-san can discern. The wielder has the power to manipulate his blood with chakra, secreting it from his pores and hardening it into this. He held up the crystal. It is as strong as steel and infused with chakra. We managed to test it, and while it may be possible to use seals to utilize this incredibly potent chakra, enough in this single crystal to create 10 shadow clones. We think its greatest point is that it can be used to absorb chakra, stealing it from the person it's used on and purifying it. Our speculation is that it can be used to purify even a Biju's chakra, killing it permanently. A quick glance at the Shinobi Council showed they were worried, knowing what the civilians would use such power for, all except the Uchiha. A subtle sign to Shibai, though, and he passed down the line that the wizened professor had a plan. We believe that the wielder is either the first or last of his clan. In any case, we've never heard of this bloodline before. I propose that he be instated as a future clan head of Konoha upon his promotion to Chunin, and that until he can enter the academy, he be trained by a private tutor of my choosing to ensure a strong clan for Konoha. Of course, the Clan Restoration Act will be instituted to ensure that the clan can prosper, and a medical specialist will of course take samples to ensure that the bloodline isn't lost should he lose his life on a mission. But with the regenerative factor that his bloodline grants him, I don't foresee that once he is properly trained. Truthfully, if trained properly, he could be the next. A subtle look at the few clan heads in the know, Yondaime. The excited murmur that flew through the crowd was all Sarutobi needed to know that it worked. Just a few more hooks and they'd be chomping at the bit for it. Now if only Danzo would be as predictable as he assumed him to be. Hokage-sama, Jackpot thought Sarutobi at Danzo's respectful tone. I suggest the boy upon approval by the council for this action. He didn't miss the subtle nod for the civilians to approve, even if it wasn't their business. It was up to the other clan heads that the boy be trained by my root. While I can see the appeal of that, Danzo, I have already chosen his tutors. For Taijutsu, Meidogai, Genjutsu, Yuhai Kurenai, Ninjutsu, Hadake, Kakashi, Kenjutsu, Gekko, Heiate, and finally, for seals, I plan to teach him from the notes of Yondaime. Sarutobi grinned. All of those named were masters in their field, and the council was eating it up. Are there any objections to this? When none came, Sarutobi set the crystal down on the folder before him. Then I suggest we put it to a vote. A quick look to the clan heads that they all took for its meaning. Follow my lead. Does the civilian council have any objection to the instatement of Konoha's newest clan? None came. Very well. He turned to the clan heads. Now, for the clan heads. I, Shibai Aburame, head of the Aburame clan, vote for this motion. I, Shikaku Nara, head of the Nara clan, vote for this motion. I, Inoichi Yamanaka, head of the Yamanaka clan, vote for this motion. I, Chozo Akamichi, head of the Akamichi clan, vote for this motion. I, Hayashi Hyuga, head of the Hyuga clan, vote for this motion. I, Tsumin Yuzuka, head of the Inuzuka clan, vote for this motion. I, Fugaku Uchiha, head of the Uchiha clan, vote for this motion. The Hokage smiled. And I, Hiruzen Sarutobi, as Hokage, head of the Sarutobi clan, and proxy of the Senju and Namikaze clans, make it unanimous. From this day forth, Uzumaki Naruto shall be trained by those listed to create the new Uzumaki clan and develop their new Kekkie Genkai of. He smiled at the name Eboshi had chosen. Seimei Ketsumiyaku, the life's blood pulse. It is the will of this council. He struck the gavel on the table right next to the crystal, a blatant smirk on his face. The uproar that followed was expected, but it was too late for them to change things, not that they could anyway. The laughing from Tsumin Yuzuka, the smirks from Hayashi and Inoichi, the smile of Choza, were all beautiful to see. But it was the shock on Danzo, Hamura, and Koharu's faces that was the happiest of his memories for this night. Naruto groaned as he awoke. The bright white behind his eyes telling him where he was. He hated the hospital. Not because they were mean to him, no, most of the staff refused to help him anyway, so they ignored him. He hated the food, and the needles, and the knowledge of how he usually got there. Still, something about last night was hazy to him. He knew something had happened, but he couldn't remember what. Stretching as he sat up, he stared around the room. The old man wasn't here. That was a first as far as Naruto could remember. Just as he thought that, though, Sarutobi walked in. "Jiji!" Naruto yelled, the 5-year-old happy to see his adoptive grandfather. "Ah, Naruto-kun, you're awake." The aged Hokage settled in a chair beside the bed. "We have much to discuss, you and I. What's wrong, Jiji?" Naruto sat up, doing a 5-year-old's best to pay attention. "Naruto, what do you want to be? What do you want to do when you grow up?" Sarutobi smiled at the boy. "A ninja like you, Jiji, and the Yondaime, and Kitty-chan and Doggy-kun," Naruto said, bouncing in his bed. Sarutobi chuckled, then got a serious look on his face. "Something happened last night, Naruto-kun. When those bad people were hurting you, you activated something we've never seen before. Some ninja have powers that run only in their family. You activated a power like that last night." "Does that mean we can find my family, Jiji?" Naruto started bouncing again. "No, Naruto-kun, I'm sorry. The ability you unlocked isn't one we recognize." Sarutobi sighed. "Since we've never heard of it, we don't know who else has it. It could also be that you are the first to ever have it." "Oh," Naruto looked down at this. "I am sorry, Naruto-kun, but there is good news. Because of this, until we can find your family or someone else with your Kekkie Genkai, you're going to be taught by some of Konoha's finest ninja, myself included. You don't have a family yet, Naruto-kun, but I promise you I will help you find one." Sarutobi smiled as the look of hope and happiness on the young boy's face. "Now come, Naruto-kun, you're going to stay with me and my family, and your teachers will come to our training ground. For today, though, how about some ramen?" "Y-A-T-T-A?" Naru. Over the next 7 years, Naruto trained. His teachers taught him to the best of their abilities, and he put every bit of effort into it as he was able. The first 2 years were spent almost exclusively with Guy. He trained in physical conditioning and learning the basics of taijutsu. The 3rd year he trained in Guy's style, learning the foundations of strong fist. It was soon apparent that while it was an amazing style, that it didn't fit Naruto. The fourth year they began to work on creating a style that would. That's also when his ninjutsu and genjutsu training started. While Kakashi was amazed at his talent for learning ninjutsu, Kurenai found that he lacked talent for normal genjutsu. It was during Kakashi's training one day that they hit a breakthrough. In developing his Kekkie Genkai, they discovered a quark of the chakra stored within his blood. He could lace it with a genjutsu, virus, so that if it even nicked an opponent, it would trap them in the genjutsu that was laced in it. In his fifth year, he began to study kenjutsu as he and Guy had finished their training. He was still perfecting his style, but he had a firm grounding in the basics. His ninjutsu training was over for the most part, and now consisted mostly of chakra control, at least until he joined a genin cell. As for genjutsu, while he was still learning the occasional illusion from Kurenai, it was mostly so he could add to his different laced weapons. Kenjutsu, though, was where his Kekkie Genkai truly started to flourish. He could forge swords of blood as strong as or stronger than any master smith could from steel. He could also do things with his blood that a smith could only dream of. This was a fact that startled Hate when Naruto's elaborate-seeming blade split into a sectioned whip chain as the more experienced swordsman moved out of his student's normal range. They discovered that due to the nature of the blood, its limits were defined by Naruto's imagination and the amount of blood he had available. As Eboshi had thought, Naruto was able to feed on blood to both replenish and increase his own supply, creating a blood pool. He could also increase the flow of blood to his muscles, supercharging his already impressive speed and strength. His tracking ability was second only to the Inuzuka, since he'd learned to distinguish blood scent, and he could place blood drops on a target as well, letting him track them even over miles of distance. Seals were the main point of study in his sixth year. The Sandaime Hokage taught him personally from notes left by the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto at first thought it was going to be boring, but soon got deeply involved in all the avenues that seals opened for him. Storage seals alone could be manipulated so many ways, and had so many practical uses that they greatly improved Naruto's outlook. The hard part was learning the sealing alphabet. What most people considered seals were actually seal arrays, made up of anywhere from 2 to several dozen different seals, all tied together. Still, by the middle of his 7th year, he'd learned enough to be proficient in basic sealing. On top of all this, he had to learn history, geography, clan and Konoha laws, diplomacy, strategy, and of course maturity. These lessons, like his training, were taught at the foot of multiple teachers, though his favorites were the Ino Shikacho trio. The three good-natured friends were a delight to be around, and always willing to help him if he didn't understand something. He'd even met a couple of the academy instructors, but his favorite was Uruka-sensei. The happy Chunin always took him out for ramen at lunch, though he'd only pay for 2 bowls for the bottomless ramen disposal that was Naruto. When all was said and done, there was only one part of his training and lessons left. It was getting close to time for the genin exam, and he would spend the last 6 months of his training in the academy. The Hokage said it was so he could learn teamwork and get to know the people who would be the future members of his team. His first day of class was tomorrow, and truthfully Naruto wasn't sure if he should dread it or not. Naruto walked down the street calmly, his head held high. A lot had changed in his years of training and living with the Sarutobi clan. For one, while the villagers still glared and whispered about him, they no longer dared lay a finger on him. He was a future clan head, the only holder of a one-of-a-kind Kekkie Genkai. To attack him would be treason toward Konoha, punishable by death, after a long session with the Anbu's torture and interrogation squad. Speaking of the Anbu, he wondered whatever happened to Dog, Cat, and Weasel. His 3 Anbu had disappeared a couple years into his training. Intellectually, he knew that they must have had other assignments, but he still missed them. They were his first friends, and you don't forget that. He hoped he could get the chance to thank them someday, but till then he would do as his senseis had taught him. He looked down at his clothing and smiled, subtle and efficient. He wore black Anbu pants and sandals, a kunai holster filled with his own blood-created kunai on his right thigh. A shuriken pouch on his back left hip held similar shuriken, and 5 pouches on his right held scrolls. Black ninja mesh covered by a red sleeveless shirt covered his torso, his hands and wrists taped. Steel bands wrapped around both his wrists and ankles. Covering it all was a sleeveless black haori, his new clan symbol emblazoned on the back. He designed it in his 5th year of training with the Hokage's help. 9 lines swirling toward the center of a spiral done in white, with a single drop of red blood over that center. He made a quick check of his equipment as he reached the academy grounds. Shuriken pouch was full. Kunai holster was full. A spool of ninja wire in the kunai pouch's fake bottom along with a pack of blood pills. Genjutsu-laced senbon in a hidden holster in his hayori, and his scrolls firmly held in their compartments. He was ready. He quickly walked into the academy's halls, channeling chakra to his ears to increase his hearing as he listened to what was happening in the classrooms as he passed. The fourth Hokage. History lesson. The main purpose of this jutsu is to avoid attack. Kawirami lecture. Multiple styles including Goken, the strong fist, and Juken. Taijutsu. All right, class, before we get started, I want to let everyone know that we'll be getting a new student today. Uruka-sensei. He'll be joining us for the last 6 months of his training. Up until now, he has been trained by many different tutors in the individual fields a shinobi should learn, and many others since he is the first to wield his particular Kekkie Genkai. He's joining us for the chance to get to know you guys and make a few friends before he gets assigned to a team, Uruka said. Uruka-sensei. That voice was definitely unique, a little sharp and slightly louder than necessary. What's his Kekkie Genkai? When he arrives, we'll ask him to explain it if he's willing, Sakura, but that's up to him, Uruka said. Naruto picked that moment to enter. I don't mind explaining some of it, Uruka-sensei. It's good to see you again. Naruto-kun, welcome to the class. Since you don't mind explaining some of your Kekkie Genkai, we'll let you use that as your introduction, then you'll have a chance to get to know everyone better during the break at lunch. Uruka smiled. Of course, Uruka-sensei. Naruto walked to the front of the class, his eyes raking them as he moved, assessing threats, strengths, and weaknesses. The boy in the long coat with the shades was an Aburame if he guessed right the Aburame heir Shino. He seemed stoic and watched the room carefully, keeping his back to the wall behind him. He noticed a bug crawling up his sleeve toward the collar of his coat. Hinata Hyuga was next in his assessments. She seemed shy, but he could see the instinctive and involuntary way her eyes cut around the room. The way she moved, it lacked confidence, but the skill was there. A project, perhaps, bring the budding flower to a proper bloom. And Yuzuka caught his eye next, his partner sitting on his head. The boy seemed brash and cocky, but he obviously had skill. Still, his overconfidence could be used against him if you played it correctly. The dog, though, was watching him carefully. Ino Shikacho, the sequel. They didn't have the level of instinctive communication that their fathers did, but they still seemed to be close. They each shared a quick glance as Naruto moved to the teacher's position, then returned to their own activities. Shikamaru napping, Choji eating chips, and Ino was alternating between glaring at a pink-haired girl and blushing at the last Uchiha. The pink-haired girl was blushing at the Uchiha and glaring back in alternating intervals between moving back to pay attention to him and the teacher. A fangirl, but seemingly a bright one. We'd see how far book smarts could take her before she had to get serious. Finally, he came to the Uchiha. He had skill, but the look in his eyes wasn't one of a wary shinobi. It was a greedy look. He was seeking power for his own reasons. He was trouble. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I am the first known wielder of Seimei Ketsumiyaku. Unlike the bloodlines you're probably most familiar with, the Sharingan of the Uchiha and Byakugan of the Hyuga, mine is not a Dojutsu, though it did turn my eyes red when I activated it. Nor is it a chakra nature like the great first Hokage's Mokyutan abilities. It is actually more akin to the Kaguya's Shiketsumiyaku. The difference is that where they can control their skeletal structure, manipulating their bones into weapons. I can manipulate my blood. This is both more versatile and more limited than the Kaguya's bloodline. Naruto smiled as the pink-haired girl's hand rose. What do you mean you can manipulate your blood, and how can it be both more versatile and limited? As for manipulating it, I can create constructs from my blood. He drew a kunai from his pouch, holding it up. Forged completely from my own blood. He let the kunai reflect the light a bit, and I guarantee much stronger and sharper than any normal forged kunai. As for being more versatile and more limited, the Kaguya are limited by the shapes their bones can take. They can forge a sword from their arm bones, but it is still a bone, and is limited as such. I, on the other hand, he replaced the kunai and let the blood flow from his hand as he forged a katana in its sheath, modeling it after Heiat's, but fitting it better to his size. Can forge anything I can imagine, as long as I have the blood to sustain it. Oh, Sakura said, exactly, if I don't have enough blood to sustain it, then weapon could shatter on the first use. He settled the sword onto his back, tying it in place with a sash made of blood as well. "How many constructs can you sustain?" Shino asked, shocking a few for the usually quiet boy's response. Naruto smirked. "That depends on how often I replenish my blood supply. Any more I'm afraid will have to wait till I get to know you better." "All right, class, today is Taijutsu sparring this morning, then the afternoon will be spent running the obstacle course. Since we're in the last 6 months of classes, these scores will go toward who becomes Rookie of the Year." Uruka smiled at them all. Naruto smiled at the chorus of cheers that resounded from that statement, but noticed that the Uchiha's eyes never left him. He followed the class out, making sure to move closer to the Hinata Hyuga. With any luck, his name wouldn't be called right away, and he'd have a chance to talk with her before their matches. He cut a glance at her from the corner of his eyes, smiling as she pushed her fingers together. A nervous gesture, perhaps. "Naruto, since you're new to the class, do you want to go first? Or wait till you've had a chance to see how we do things?" Uruka asked. A test Uruka-sensei, Naruto thought. "I'll wait to see how things are done before I fight Uruka-sensei." Uruka smiled and started to call the shinobi students into the sparring circle. The first up was the Uchiha, and Naruto made sure to watch, but he split his attention between that and flirting with Hinata. He grinned as the lavender-eyed princess blushed and twiddled her fingers. As for the Uchiha, he was arrogant. He didn't respect his opponent at all, treating him like nothing compared to, as Sasuke said, the might of the Uchiha. Naruto sighed as the match ended, then tuned out the bouts till another clan heir came up. "Lady Hinata," Naruto smiled, "I've heard many talk of the subtlety and beauty of the Hyuga's Juken. I feel honored that I shall get to see it demonstrated by one whom so surpasses its beauty with her own." Then, thank you, Naruto-sama." Hinata bowed her head a bit, still twiddling her fingers. "Just Naruto, please, or Naruto-kun if you like." He smiled at her again. Then, you can call me Hinata-chan." She dipped her head, her blush brilliant red. "Hinata-chan, relax. I am your friend, or will be if you let me. I've seen the way you move, the way your eyes watch the room. The only flaw with your ability that I can see is your lack of confidence in yourself. If you could overcome that, you'd be the strongest Kunoichi in this class." Naruto whispered to her. The Hyuga just stared at him. She couldn't believe what she'd just heard. Everyone told her she was pathetic, that she didn't have the talent to be a shinobi. Now here was someone who'd watched her for a few minutes telling her that her only problem was confidence. How could she believe that? But I don't want to hurt anyone," Hinata tried to get out. "Ah, I see. That is a noble, and it makes you a wonderful person. However, it can make you a horrible shinobi." He held his hand up at the hurt look in her eyes. "I said can Hinata-chan, not does. There are 2 things you can do that I can think of off the top of my head. The first is study medicine and become a medic nin. As a Hyuga, you'd have a great advantage in this. Your Byakugan letting you diagnose injuries and damage to the chakra system quite easily. The next is to think about this. If you're able to fight and don't, then someone less able has to step up and fight in your place. This could lead to them getting hurt and failing the mission, and that could lead many in Konoha getting hurt. When it comes to a spar like this, just remember, use only what is necessary to win. There is no reason to be cruel, but don't let yourself be beaten by fear of harming someone. That's what the senseis and medics are here for, to make sure no one is injured." "Thank you, Naruto-kun," she smiled, but she still pressed her fingers together. "Hyuga Hinata and Haruno Sakura to the ring," Uruka called. "Remember, Hinata-chan, do your best. She is smart in the theory of things, but her physical training is lacking. Use your better conditioning against her." He smiled as Hinata nodded and walked into the ring. "This'll be easy," Sakura said. "Hinata can't hit a fly." "Don't listen to her, Hinata. You don't have to hit this one to beat her," Naruto said aloud. "Yeah, right, Dobi. How can you beat someone without hitting them?" Sasuke's jeer sounded loud to everyone. Naruto smirked as the pieces fell together for her and she took up her Juken stance. The veins around her eyes bulged as she watched her pink-haired opponent. For her part, Sakura took up the basic academy stance thinking she had lucked out on an easy win. Uruka looked between the two, smiling as Naruto seemed to have done something for the shy Hyuga's confidence. "Hajime!" The pinkette rushed forward, a textbook punch flying toward the Hyuga who slipped sideways out of her path. When Sakura tried to compensate with a back fist, the Hyuga ducked under it and danced around her. Hinata started to smile as she ducked, dodged, and danced around the increasingly frustrated Kunoichi. She'd not landed a single punch at the now wildly swinging girl. Everyone watched on amazed as Sakura tried unsuccessfully to land a blow on the limber Hinata. They'd never seen anything like this before, and it was worrying some of them, especially Sakura's chief rival. The longer the fight went on, the more energy Sakura expended, and the closer she came to defeat without Hinata even attempting to land a blow. With a final effort to strike the evasive Hyuga, Sakura rushed forward only for Hinata to spin around her and press a pressure point on the back of her neck, dropping the girl to her knees. "Winner, Hinata," Uruka called, smiling. "Good job, Hinata, using an opponent's weaknesses against them. Sakura, you need to work on your physical conditioning and speed, but your form was perfect." Naruto grinned as Hinata walked back toward him. "See, I told you you could do it." "Thank you, Naru-kun." Hinata blushed again, but Naruto was pleased to note she didn't stutter. Naruto turned his attention back to the matches then, sharing comments with Hinata about the strengths and weaknesses of each combatant. They watched as the Nara used his superior planning to make Kiba eliminate himself by rushing out of the ring. Shino managed to easily defeat his opponent, though it wasn't a clan heir, so that was to be expected. Choji used a sumo-style palm strike to launch his opponent from the ring. Ino fought another of Sasuke's fangirls, knocking her out completely. Then it was Naruto's turn. Naruto walked onto the sparring field and watched as his opponent stepped from the crowd. His eyes widened as he took in the pale, dark-haired form of the emotionless boy. This was not a normal student. He'd completely passed him over in his scouting of the room during his entrance, and that worried him. Moving past his demeanor ability assessment, he moved on to skills. Long-sleeved half-shirt and Anbu pants much like Naruto's, kunai holster on his right thigh. He also wore a backpack that Naruto wasn't sure about. This would be interesting. Match between Naruto and Sai Hajime.